many of the lives that ICAN does.
Now, I know many of you are in line getting ready to eat some of this fantastic food. We've not had any yet, so you got to tell us how it is. But we do want to draw your attention to a couple of things. If you are a current or past board member of ICAN, would you please stand? All right, let's thank them.
We would also like to recognize the many clients and their families that are joining us tonight. If you would, please stand or please wave your hand. We would love to recognize that you're with us tonight too.
Clients and families. We're especially glad that you're here tonight. Now, we have some very special guests and folks who during the past several years were handlers for the dogs. So if you are a handler or former handler, would you please stand? Right. Thank you.
ICAN also wouldn't be possible to make all of the difference in people's lives as they do on both ends of the leash if it wasn't for the Department of Corrections staff. This evening we have several Department of Corrections staff here. One of them is walking right in front of me. She's a wave. Love seeing her when I head to the women's prison, Miss Foster. Just one of the several Department of Corrections staff that's here. Current or former, please stand. We would love to recognize your difference that you've helped make with ICAN too.
And you know, so many folks have through the past 15 years given of their time to make this organization successful. In fact, ICAN operates very close to the bone, literally, with a very small staff, but a huge group of volunteers. So if you're a past or current volunteer for ICAN, please stand right now. We want to thank you.
And of course, ICAN wouldn't be possible, and tonight wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the dedicated staff that work the countless hours, that transport the dogs, that truly change people's lives. At this time, we would like to recognize the ICAN staff members that are here tonight. They're probably up walking around, but a huge round of applause for them too.
Wait, somebody's not standing.
Who are we missing?
We are missing the founder of ICAN, Sally Irvin. And the reason we're missing her, folks, is she's in the dog pound over there. We need $105 to get her out. So please go over and get Miss Sally out of the dog pound tonight.
$105. That's all it's going to take to get her out. Keep in mind that it was 15 years ago that Sally actually had the idea for ICAN. And it all started on a napkin, believe it or not. And that napkin is what started the idea that's changed so many lives. And that napkin can actually be seen tonight. It's in the memory lane. It's framed. It was absolutely incredible to see that in person.
Well, the goal here tonight is to raise money, but also to give some stories, to put some stories out there in your mind so that you can remember this night. And we have some very special guests that we want to introduce you to tonight.
One of those first people that we would like to introduce you to is Joan Goldfarb. I'd like to ask Joan to come up. And I feel like I know Joan a little bit because I spent some time in her home with both she and her daughter, Olivia. And you're going to get to hear a little bit of their story tonight. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. First of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about what was life like before you had your ICAN dog. Okay. All right, so good evening. We were honored to be here this evening to share our story of Olivia and Alex.
and get through this tonight without crying, but it probably will not happen. On April 24th, 2005, Olivia came into our lives as a beautifully perfect baby. But a few months later, at her 3-month checkup, the doctor noticed that some things were not quite right. And this was absolutely devastating to us. It was the worst day of our lives. Hearing this doctor tell us that our baby was not perfect and Olivia wasn't meeting her milestones, and felt that Olivia may need some testing done. This started us down a very long road of therapies, specialists, and testing. Olivia was missing milestones after milestone, and she eventually rolled over at about the age of 1, sat up independently at about 1.5 years, and started crawling around 2 years old. But she wasn't walking, and that wasn't even a glimmer. So Olivia learned how to use a walker at about 2.5, but she was just kind of propelling it with her feet. She didn't really know how to walk. During all this time, lots of testing was taking place. Her MRI showed reduced size and atrophy of her cerebellum, but the doctors didn't know why. Every genetic blood test they ordered all came back with normal results. At around 4, we had exhausted all avenues of testing, and Olivia was given a diagnosis of CP with the stipulation that her doctors felt it was something else. A diagnosis did eventually come 5 years later after advances in genetic testing. Olivia was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disorder that when she was diagnosed, she was actually only the 2nd child in the world to be diagnosed with it. During those 5 years, we carried on with our lives, and Olivia continued with her therapies. She used her walker to get around, and while the walker gave her some freedom, it had a lot of limitations. She couldn't take it up or down stairs, so she would be limited to the lower levels, and she wasn't able to keep up with her peers. The walker was really wide, so it didn't fit everywhere Olivia really wanted to go, and it was heavy. So Olivia fatigued pretty quickly because to walk, she had to push around approximately 20 extra pounds. It was socially awkward for her, and it was always the elephant in the room. People stare, and kids question, and it set Olivia apart in a negative way. Olivia's ability to be independent was limited by her mobility. It was fatiguing and a lot of work to do small things, so Olivia relied on us to do a lot for her, such as getting her shoes or other objects, and she always couldn't fit into places, especially in public. So when we would go to a restaurant, she couldn't get through the tables, and so we'd either have to carry her or help her navigate through those areas. At school, she had to rely on her aide and her peers to open doors, get papers, and go to the bathroom. She also wasn't making any progress towards walking, and she had stalled out. One doctor told us that she probably would never walk independently. ICAN and Allie came into our lives on April 25th, 2014. We had our face-to-face interview, and if you were there, you knew that those 2 dogs were destined to be together. The bond between them was instant. Team training was a beautiful, tearful, and amazing experience. At first, we were a little hesitant taking our child into a prison, but those worries quickly disappeared. The handlers were so kind and supportive of Olivia. We went into training with goals like Allie would help Olivia get her shoes, she would turn off her lights, and provide a social bridge for Olivia. But during training, we kept getting glimpses of how much more this could actually be. At one point, it was suggested that we should let Olivia try to walk with Allie without her walker. So we did it, and it was absolutely the most amazing thing for us to watch. We watched her take her first steps with just Allie. In that moment, we could see new hope, new possibilities, and a new world for Olivia. We have had Allie for 3.5 years now. I'm not going to say that it was always easy and always wonderful. There were trying and stressful times because a lot of work and training still goes in after team training is over. But every second Olivia is a confident, independent young woman, and over the last 3 years, Allie gave Olivia the hope and confidence to be independent. She gave her strength and taught her how to walk. Within 6 months of Olivia working with Allie, they were walking independently in our house. Within the year, they were walking independently in public and outdoors. And currently, her walker has been hanging in the garage, collecting dust because she does not need it anymore. Allie goes to school with Olivia every day. They walk the halls, they socialize, and they have a ton of friends. Olivia actually is now able to walk in our home totally independent, even without Allie. Allie was not so sure about letting Olivia do this at first. She would walk right beside her and you're supposed to be holding on. But she's come to accept it. Olivia is no longer limited by the constraint of a walker, and Allie is our miracle. Olivia's accomplishments were made possible because of ICAN, the amazing staff, volunteers, and especially the handlers. The handlers spend every second of their days with dogs that are going to go home with someone and change their lives and become their miracles. Randy, who you saw in the video, was one of Allie's original handlers and played a role in bringing Allie here to us. During team training, Allie's handler and our family formed a special bond. After training ended, we were able to stay in touch, and I tried to email her weekly and send pictures as often as I could, because we really wanted to say thank you. And for her to see the amazing work that she did and how she changed our lives forever. ICAN gave Allie to us, and Allie gave us a miracle. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to Olivia. So if Olivia can come on up.
Thank you for everyone for coming and supporting ICAN.
I'd like for us to keep the sound down just a little bit because we have, and that was awesome, Joan. Thank you so much. And Olivia, Allie, and your family, we really appreciate it. Could we have the folks in the back just bring it down just a little bit? Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I'd like to invite Robin Wilson to come to the stage. Many of you know Robin's story. Her 22-year-old daughter Hannah was abducted from the IU Bloomington campus and was murdered in April of 2015. And I think that everybody here can recognize the heartbreak for her and her family. But ICAN has, in this very dark situation, helped to make a real difference in Robin's life and her family. Please welcome Robin Wilson tonight.
Good evening. It's so nice to see how many people have come out tonight to celebrate the 15 years of ICAN. As a veterinarian, I am well aware of the positive impact on both the physical and emotional well-being that pets make in our lives. But prior to April 24th, 2015, I'm not sure I fully understood how powerful the human-animal bond could be. After the tragic murder of my daughter Hannah, I was given the chance to personally experience the healing power of one sweet black lab puppy named Hannah. One of my clients, who has an ICAN dog for her son Kendall, was devastated over what I'd been through, and she had wanted to sponsor an ICAN puppy and name her Hannah as a tribute to me and in memory of my beautiful daughter. I was aware that an ICAN service dog can provide assistance to people in so many different ways, but who knew that this dog would heal a broken heart? In the weeks after Hannah's funeral, I struggled with wondering if I would ever feel happy again, if I'd be able to laugh without feeling guilty, and if I could remember Hannah with a smile instead of with tears. Fortunately, I found that I could after meeting this amazing puppy. On the very first day that we met puppy Hannah, she ran to me and jumped into my arms and placed her paws around my neck. It was just like my Hannah was reaching down from heaven and hugging me just like she'd always done. It was at that moment I knew Hannah would want me to move on and find joy in living. Hannah would be the first one to say, live life to the fullest, have no regrets, and find a reason to laugh and dance every day. So I chose to do just that. I looked forward to every opportunity to visit with puppy Hannah because with each visit our bond grew stronger. As my daughter Haley and I got to know this puppy, we were amazed at how much she reminded us of our Hannah. Hannah's life was about compassion and unconditional love. She was also a free spirit with a silly sense of humor, and she would light up a room wherever she went. Now we look back and are astonished at how similar our Hannah is to puppy Hannah's personality. She could bring us comfort during our time together, and we could completely forget about her pain and sadness during that time. I'm so grateful to ICAN for sharing not just this one puppy, but many of the ICAN dogs who brought healing to the young women of Hannah's sorority at Indiana University. On the 1-year anniversary of Hannah's death, a troop of ICAN dogs and volunteers arrived in Bloomington, and it was absolutely heartwarming to look out on the lawn of the Gamma Phi Beta house to see all those young ladies loving on those dogs and finding peace on that particular day. What a true blessing that was for all of them. I just want to thank all of the ICAN staff, board members, countless volunteers for all that they do to make this organization such a success, so that these dogs can bring about life-changing bonds for their humans. I am so proud to say that one sweet little black lab puppy changed me, and that I can now say I can play a very small part in the success of ICAN's 15 years. So here's to ICAN, to many more, and congratulations on your success.
Robin, thank you for sharing your story. The power of the dog, right? ICAN dogs heal in so many ways. It's hard to put into words what ICAN dogs can do, but it's clear that they've touched us all in this room. And that is why we are here tonight to ask for your support for ICAN. You may have noticed that the dogs are not only wearing their ICAN vests tonight, they have a little swag.
That's right. And that swag is for you to put some dollars in. 70 people await a service dog, and applications come monthly to the organization. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But I'd like you to share with us a little bit about barking for bucks.
Well, I mentioned that those dogs have a little bit of swag on, and they have that swag on because they are barking for bucks tonight. We would like to invite everybody who has one of the dogs, so that's 40 or 50 dogs, to come right up to the front of the room. These guys are going to be out, and gals, throughout the evening, walking around. If you have a few extra bucks, put it in a pup's pouch. All of that money will go directly to ICAN, and keep in mind you can also make a credit card donation if you would like as well. And that money is so important, as Chuck mentioned, because 70 people are just awaiting that four-legged friend that's going to change their lives.
Right, and your generous gift can make a difference and help the organization to carry out its important mission for the next 15 years.